It's easy to stop. Everyone's right to moan and have an opinion. Maybe some people quite like it. I hate long throw-ins. I hate these corners. It's like watching Wimbledon in the early 90s, and people used to take the piss. So the Premier League just need to tweak the rules a little bit. My opinion.
I'm not against it. I agree with you completely that they can't do it mid-season because some teams have benefited through being able to do it, and some people have been penalised for it. You can't suddenly stop it halfway through because I think you can't change rules in the middle of the season. You damage the integrity. Sometimes it's why the handballs this weekend confused me. The Declan Rice handball, the Nunes handball, and everybody's going on about Man United's red card, which I agree Cunha went down easy, but he's definitely being pulled. And if anybody wants...
But just jumping in on that, you're absolutely spot on, because I watched the Man City-Liverpool game. Guehi pulls Salah down in the box. That's probably going to cost Arsenal the title then, because this is where I can't do. I have That's Football, I do this, I have United Stand, and maybe we're very popular because we don't do the whole red tinted glasses stuff all the time. And when Cunha went down, I instantly said, I'm not going to lie, I could sit here going, get him off, this, that, and the other, but I'll get clipped up by people who watch That's Football. That's not a red card for me. That's so soft. Fair play to Cunha, but ultimately it's on the PGMOL. Go and watch the Guehi clip on Salah and then tell me that that's a red card on Cunha. It's not. But that's the inconsistency, isn't it?
But this is where I agree on you about not having the red tinted glasses. I thought Guehi's on Salah was a penalty and red card. I felt it carried on into the box, and you could see Mo Salah's going to get onto the ball, and he's at the same angle as Cunha, and he's going to have a shot. And Mo Salah, I know Mo Salah's had 9 games without a goal, but Mo Salah having a shot from there is a clear goal scoring opportunity. It 100% should have been a red card to Guehi and a penalty.
But when they don't give it, they shouldn't give it in a Man United game.
This is where I agree. So for me, well, I agree, but in reverse. I think it's a foul. So then they shouldn't not give it for me to Cunha. They need to give the right decision. But the problem is they defended their decision with Salah and said it was the correct one. Therefore, you shouldn't be giving that. So my personal feeling is they're both fouls. They're both red cards. They're both penalties. But I understand the pushback. But what I found was really interesting in the United game is Lacroix's handball. No one anywhere has discussed it. That was the worst handball of the weekend. And but it was 3 handballs in 2 days that have been given all season. And for whatever reason, this weekend, they decided not to give them. Now, whether there's been a briefing and they've said, we're no longer going to give handballs if it's in close proximity or if they're grappling on the ball, fine. But 1, you've got to tell us. And 2, what about all the poor sods that have conceded penalties for that already this season? How is that integral to the league that you've changed the handball rule at some stage? And all of that needs to be looked at. But in terms of how you play, I agree that they should change up. For me, I would add a box within the 6-yard box, just 2 new lines inside the 6-yard box. It isn't going to take too much work. And no one's allowed in it, or no more than 1 player can be in it. If you're in there and you touch the goalkeeper, it's going to be a foul. Bring something in that's very easy to manage that stops the crowding of the goalkeeper. I actually think a lot of Arsenal's corners they score, where their players run from deep, out-jump their opponents and bullet the ball in with their head. I'm not against that. That, for me, is not what's in question here. What's for me, I don't even mind the grappling amongst players. I'm not against that. Because for me, both sides do it to each other. It's really normal. If they want to get rid of it, get rid of it. But for me, it's the crowding of the goalkeeper is the one bit I look at, and I'm just not a fan of it. But I think time limits, I've been asking for this for 20 years, Mark. My first ever time I went on TalkSport years ago, before I ever thought I'd do this, there was this show where Adrian Durham and Darren Goff were saying, what 1 rule would you change in football? And I said, time wasting. And I said, everything has to be taken within 10 seconds. And my punishments were quite harsh, like goal kick, 10 seconds. If you don't, it's a penalty to the other team. It looks like they're bringing in, maybe not the punishments I wanted, but they're bringing in those rules finally. I agree with all of that. But the one thing that I don't know how you address this, look at this, is up to date as of this weekend. Look at how deep the defenses are against Arsenal. You then get Brighton, United, City, Chelsea, Newcastle in a cluster, and then you get everybody else. That also means Man United, by the way, in the last 5 games has moved nearer to the Brightons and the Man Cities with the way we're playing. Teams are sitting deeper against us now. But this is also one part of it where I don't blame Arsenal. And the reason why I won't blame Arsenal is because one day this is hopefully going to be Man United again. And by the way, up until the last 2 seasons, City were up in that top quarter with them. teams sit back and they are so deep and they are so negative against the better sides. And I defended this for years with Man United and got angry with it to a point where I think one of the other things I wanted them to bring in is you can't have any more than, it's hard to do because of offside, but I was like, you shouldn't be able to have more than 8 players in your own half. Because the one thing that bores me more than those corners is watching teams sit behind the ball for 90 minutes and just not try to attack at all. That for me, if you're going to look at anything in the game that for me kills it and makes it boring, it's so many teams against Arsenal, against City. They're now doing it against Man United. Just go, right, we're going to sit in. We're going to be really compact. And we're not even going to attack when we win the ball. We're going to knock it long into a channel and see what happens. And if we don't win the ball, we're just going to sit deep again. For me, that element of football never seems to get criticised, but yet a long throw does. At least the team taking a long throw are trying to score a goal. At least a team being a bit rough on a corner are trying to score a goal. These fuckers sitting deep. They're not interested in playing football. But for some reason, that's seen as absolutely acceptable for our game from a spectacle point of view, but a long throw isn't. I'm a little bit, I don't know how you change this because it's a really hard one, but those fuckers,
Wenger's new rule is going to make it worse.
Sorry?
Wenger's new offside rule is going to make it even worse. You know, apparently they're going to start trialing it in Canada. The whole, you're not offside unless your whole body's offside. Well, that's the death of the high line. Why would you play a high line now? You just won't bother. So, I mean, this is what happens when people get old. They come up with stupid bloody ideas about, legacy. Arsene Wenger this, Arsene Wenger that. The guy's in his bloody 90s now, isn't he? Don't know what he's bloody on about.
No, I hear you. I think the rule sounds great when you see an offside given, and it's there was the offside for what would have maybe been the winning goal for Burnley, and it was like a centimetre of his shoulder. I get it. For me, I think
it's still offside though, isn't it? It was still the same the other way. Even if it's your full body, it'll be when there's a line, there's always going to be a toenail. Like people forget that.
And I'm not worried about the inch thing. I would do it this way. If I was going to change the offside rule, I would say we measure it by the attacker's feet. So if they're leaning forward, but their feet are onside, I'd give it as onside. Does that make sense? I look at that and go, if you want to give an advantage, because this new rule is to give an advantage to the attackers. Absolutely is about an advantage to the attackers. Just base it on the feet. Because I don't think anybody likes seeing an offside where it's a centimetre of somebody's shoulder. Or the one I saw the other day, and it might have even been Man United, it was where somebody pointed to where they wanted the ball, and the point made them offside because it made their shoulder go over the line. And I'm like, that shouldn't be offside, should it? Like, that hasn't given them an advantage. They were actually onside. So yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I agree. I just think that football's hard at the minute, and it sounds crazy. It's because a lot of it stems from everybody trying to win, and they're desperate to stay in the Premier League because the money's so high. So I don't think a lot of people care about. I don't think most teams care about how good or bad the football looks. It's all just about
you can see it with the kickoffs. Can't you? I mean, like, why? I still don't understand why every single kickoff from every Premier League team, the goalkeeper boots it for possession. Like, there's no logic to it. Well, there is. It's about high possession, but it doesn't actually lead to a goal. It's just, when you actually think about it, why not just kick it off and pass it back to your right back and have a bit of possession? Like, it doesn't. This is what I mean. Football in the last couple of years has become so strategically data analysed. It's took the fun out of it. We're not seeing great goals. We're not seeing individuality. We're not seeing open play goals in the way that we used to. It's all about percentages, isn't it? That's what it is.
But that's what I like about the way Carrick's making Man United play. I feel it's a bit more old school. I feel there is structure to us defensively, but I feel it's a little bit more sort of, to coin maybe a bit of a working class phrase, like go out there and enjoy yourself, lads. There's an element of that to it which I like. The problem that you have is that the top class analytical chess playing coaches seem to always outdo those guys. The great thing is, when it comes to the legacy debate, when people go, who's left the better legacy on the Premier League, we definitely get to say Fergie and Wenger did over Pep now, because Pep's is one of the reasons everybody started doing this, to compete with him, and now everyone thinks football's dead. And it's also a warning for anyone who takes the Manjaro jabs. You never know what it's going to look like in 10 years' time. So be very careful when you start doing things now. Yes, Terry, the fucking low block. I hate it. We watched too many Premier League teams with no shots on target for 60 minutes. So I am falling asleep. No, I agree, Ray. And this is why I think the attacks on Arsenal are over the top. I think there was times where they haven't been good enough in the attack and they should be criticised in that moment. But I'm seeing fans of teams who play with much lower blocks, are far less expansive when they play, do the exact same things on set pieces. I'm seeing Chelsea fans, by the way, who attack, by the way, don't sit back, who have scored a higher percentage of their goals from set pieces this year than Arsenal, attacking Arsenal for set piece goals. And I sit there and think, this is where it's all getting a bit warped for me. It's almost like people are blaming Arsenal. And I'm going, hang on a minute. I thought I can't play the video footage, unfortunately, because of copyright. But do you remember a goal that Alonso scored against Arsenal for Chelsea about 7 years ago? And he knocked Bellerin almost unconscious. And Bellerin couldn't even stand up. He was dazed, star-glazing. He jumped up. He wins the header, but his elbow smashes through him. Go back and listen to the commentary. And it was all, basically, it's a man's game. Arsenal were too soft. They're no good at the dark arts. They've got to get better at like fighting fire with fire. They start doing that, and everybody wants it to be removed. They weren't the ones who started. It's a lie. And I know a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. David De Gea was targeted by opponents in this same way for how many years, Mark? Because they knew he was pretty soft at it. You'd have done a watch along for the game. We conceded the goal against Sheffield United for him being manhandled. They didn't give a foul. We went down the other end and did the same thing to their goalkeeper. They disallowed our goal. It was Vicario versus Man City. I've seen City fans on their high horse recently going, oh, you never see us, our players roughing up opponents on corners. Yes, you did. You were the team that discovered that if you rough up Vicario on corners, he's shit. You were the ones who did it. So this is my issue. I don't mind the conversation about how do we stop this at corners. But this idea that Arsenal started it, lie. The idea that football's got boring because of the way Arsenal play, this is a lie. If anything, it's Pep Guardiola and everybody copying him, which is absolutely fair. But it's the teams that are sitting back and being negative. And that's the bit I find so crazy. It's a lot of the teams that are sitting back and being negative that are not attacking. The teams that when they've played Arsenal this year have not tried to score goals, have the audacity to go, Arsenal play boring football and are killing the league. No, if all of you did what Arsenal did, do you know how entertaining the league would be? If all of you played with a high line that as high as theirs, and you attacked as much as they did, and you stopped being so negative, the league would be more entertaining. But you know why you don't do it? Because a lot of you know you're going to get slapped up more. And the winning is more important. So I think let's have an honest conversation as grown-ups about this and look at where football can be improved rather than this stupid finger-pointing game. Because, by the way, the only reason you're having to go at Arsenal for it is because you're scared shitless they're going to win the league. And you can't be, and that's it. If Arsenal were 8th playing this way, you wouldn't give a shit. You wouldn't be blaming them whatsoever. So let's be honest about it. The idea it's their fault, I find jarring because it'll be Man United they blame next when we're doing well, and it's just, it gets on my nerves. This is something that's got to be done about the Premier League football. It's hideous. I'm over 40 and I am so bored with the style of play of football, with class, fast-paced football. But not anymore, slow and WWE-like. I still think the ball moves quite quickly, but you've also got to look at this side of it. I don't think it's anybody's fault. The level of athlete now in the Premier League is crazy. So it's so much harder. We have players that we think are quite quick, and Boomer's quite quick, and Dorgu's quite quick. But how many defenders can they actually strip anymore? Plus, I'll tell you what's gone from the game. Fucking sweeper keepers. How many times now does the ball go over? You see a striker. Oh, the striker's going to be in. No, he ain't. The fucking goalkeeper's there. That didn't used to happen 20 years ago. The goalies were in their box. The amount of times now, ball goes over the top. You go, we're through. And then suddenly out of nowhere, the keeper arrives and boots it into the stands. There's all the, again, I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm just saying sometimes, it's part and parcel of football. Maybe it will maybe you change it. Maybe the goalies can't leave their box. I don't know. It needs
to be coached though. Like, players need to be allowed to take people on and encouraged to take people on. I was looking at the Arsenal game at the weekend and I was like, Cole Palmer had the ball out on the wing. And I was like, you could run at that player there. You've got the ability to run at him. Well, you might not get past him, but you might get past him. And he didn't. He just slows it down and passes it back. And you're like, this is coaching. This is coaching. Like, sometimes people get it 35 yards out trust me, in training, they can put it in the top corner. They could have a go. No, but don't do that. It's all percentage. It's all about probe. You know,
yeah.
Tactically, the game is pretty dull. Coaching is quite diluted. But the Premier League can change it. Like, for all the moaning, they can't do it till the end of the season. You can't change things in season. I'm dead against that. But they can change things. All the moaning shouldn't be aimed at Arsenal or Everton. It should be aimed at the Premier League. They can change things. They can change it easily. They changed it with goalkeepers, didn't they?
Yep. Well, this is exactly it. When people go, Terry, what do you mean the goalies can't leave the box? Like, I'm spitballing on a podcast. I hadn't thought about that situation prior. But if you'd have said 35, 40 years ago, I'd stop pass back rule, everyone going, you're mad. When they introduced yellow cards, oh, you're mad. What do you mean introducing yellow? All these things would have been rejected initially as damaging to the game. But sometimes new tactics come in. You have to look at it and go, could a change be made that improves things? And yeah, it's a difficult one now. But
my big thing is just to get the game flowing. Having seen the Bundesliga on Friday nights, like I don't know a lot of these teams. You know, I'll be honest. Like, watching Augsburg play Hamburg, I'm not going to know that as much as watching Spurs Palace, but it's a better watch. And the games fly by, even though I don't know a lot of the players. And how is that? Because the ball's in play a lot.
But I think we as fans play a part of this in this though as well, Mark. And I think one of the areas for us is maybe pushing back against the narrative of win at all costs. Maybe there has to be a cultural change amongst us as fans of the Premier League and what we demand from our clubs, but then what we accept in the result, in the sense of, I'm not saying be happy regardless of the result every week, but maybe if there is more of a push to, we want to see football being played. And if we're playing well, but we don't win every week, we can accept it. I think what's also forced clubs into doing this is the social media era. And you could play scintillating football, but lose, everyone's angry. You play boring football and lose, everybody's angry. Everybody cares about winning, and it's win at any cost. We've got fans now that justify their clubs cheating. Oh, yeah, I just want to win. I want to win. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, people say. That whole attitude will also lead to this brand of football where the result is more important than the way people perform. And I've done this many times on match reactions where I've gone, start of the season, first game against Arsenal, Man United. I went, look, I'm unhappy to lose, but I really liked how we played. You loser. You loser. You praise. You're happy with a loss. You're a mug. I'm like, no, but I'd like us to keep playing that way. And I feel over time we'd win more games than we lose. Sadly, we didn't, and we end up losing that manager. But it's a case of you can't even talk about performances anymore unless you win. The media shuts it down. The broadcasters shut it down. Look, we even have the Premier League trolling clubs now. Engagement farming has become something of the Premier League troll its own clubs. And everything boils down to winning. And then you're in Arsenal state, and it gets even worse because then they start winning in the way that you told them to change to for years. And now you're slagging that off. And it's like a lose-lose. What we need is more integrity in the conversations, the media pushing the right messages. And I think that will also seep into dressing rooms and football clubs.
Well, Arne Slot said it, didn't he? Arne Slot said it 3 times this season now in interviews. And I think whatever Liverpool fans think about Arne Slot, I would applaud him for, because I think it's very Jurgen Klopp-like. I think he would have said something as well. I think that to have a manager of a big Premier League club coming out and saying that the games aren't watchable, they're really boring. You know, sometimes as a fan, people just go, oh, yeah, I don't want to listen to you. But when managers are saying it, I think it's absolutely spot on. And look, you know, the United Palace game at the weekend, you've got, I think he's a crap referee anyway. He always looks like he's a rabbit in the headlights cabinet. He goes and books Henderson for time wasting. And I'm like, mate, this is just, it's like a pantomime yellow card, isn't it? Oh, the goalkeeper, let's book the goalkeeper for time wasted. What about the guy who took 40 seconds to take a throw in? What about the free kick where start booking people for time wasting on throw-ins and everything, and you'll see a speeding up of the game. And the reason the set pieces has become so important is because the game is so slow. It's almost becoming like the NFL. You know, you slow the game down and you play in spurts, and football has always been a really difficult game to dictate from the training ground. But if you slow the game down and you make it be based around plays, so like that's what they're doing with the kickoff. They're booting it long because somewhere on the training ground they'll have figured out that they can go and do that. When it's a corner, you can put a corner and you can position people. When it's a throw-in, you can position people. The game is slowing down, which is allowing coaches to plan plays. But if you play football for 45 minutes and it's fast paced, you can't plan plays. The rhythm, you've got to be more vibe. And fans want vibe football. They want spontaneity. And the way the Premier League get that is by speeding the game up and stopping coaches from being able to plan plays from throw-ins and goal kicks, etc. So we need to speed the game up so the ball's more in play and there's less opportunity for coaches to plan things out, which allows the player then to play on their instinct.
But this is, I'm going to say the name Bruno Fernandes, but this is half my issue with it. Players like Bruno Fernandes for the past 6 years have been attacked and ridiculed and lambasted half the time by our own supporters at Man United, taking too many risks, losing the ball, trying something flamboyant, keep it simple, keep it basic, stick to the pattern. I want patterns. That is what's led to this. And football fans have actually been given what they've asked for. We are now seeing the end result of robotic pattern of play football where risk is chastised. I remember listening to an interview with a Bayern Munich player that said Pep doesn't like us taking shots from the edge of the box. Why? Well, he showed us that less than 4% go in. So therefore, when you take a shot from distance, there's a 96% chance that you lose possession of the ball. So don't do it. When it comes to dribbles, on average, 44% of dribbles are successful. So therefore, unless you are Lionel Messi, I don't really want you dribbling past too many players because there's a 50%, more than a 50% chance you're going to lose possession for us. This type of football was celebrated as the greatest ever. And it was brilliant with a squad full of players like Bayern Munich, with a squad like Man City built. The issue is it became very hard for anyone else to beat it, unless you were either one, highly pragmatic, which we're saying we don't like, or two, unless you copied it. And this is why I say fans are partly to blame, because everybody begged for it. There are Man United fans who, when you listen to them speak, favorite coach, it's always a Pep-esque. Favorite players, it's always the Barca, tiki-taka, high percentage football. So none of your favorite players are Man United players, but you're a Man United fan. Nah. Your favorite managers aren't a Man United manager, but you're a Man United fan. Yeah. I didn't really like how Fergie and Man United played football. How do you even support us then? It doesn't even make sense. But it's because there was this indoctrination that is the way to play football. And of course, it is absolute optimum best. It was fantastic to watch. The problem is that everybody's ended up following suit or gone the other way where they're highly pragmatic and boring. And you put those two things together and you've got dishwater. That is what we now have in football. We need to encourage more Bruno Fernandezes.
How many good wingers are there in the league?
No, exactly. But it's because now what's happening is in the academies, they're teaching them to be more robotic. They're not teaching them to be spontaneous. And there is a knock-on effect. But fans, this is where fans annoy me. I love football fans. I get to speak to them, but this is where they annoy me. We never want to take accountability ourselves. Oh, I've got the worst owners in the country. Do you still fund them? Yeah. Well, you're partly to blame. Don't you dare blame me. You are, whether you like it or not. Oh, I hate how expensive football is. And do you pay, though? Do you pay all the subscriptions? Yeah. Well, if they keep paying it, they're going to keep fucking putting the prices up. We're accountable.